Hello and welcome to another web development tutorial on this channel. Today we're going to write some JavaScript code which will help us to make a homepage more usable. What I'm going to show you is how to write a sticky navbar which, once you scroll, follows the homepage down. And yeah, as a prerequisite, you should be roughly familiar with JavaScript, so the basics should be familiar to you. Also, I'm going to be using jQuery in this tutorial, but at a very basic level, so you can view this tutorial as an introduction to jQuery. Yeah, and enough talk now. Let's have a look what we're going to implement, and then I show you how to do it. So first of all, let's talk about what I want to do. What's a sticky navbar? So here's my current homepage. So if you've seen the previous videos, you recognize that it's already changed. So I used the system we've set up with Gulp and Nunchucks to already change the design a bit, but now we want to tackle the functionality or the usability. So this is a long site with my tutorials, and if I scroll down, you see here up at the top beneath the header we have the navbar, and if I scroll down, and now for example I'm a user here and I have a question, I want to contact me, or so not I want to contact me, but the user on this homepage, he has to scroll up again to click on the contact. And also so on some of the other sites, for example services, if you go to one of the longer service sites, you scroll down, and now to contact me, okay, down here I have this contact link, but for the other links I have to scroll up and then I can go to the other sites. So this is not ideal. So a possible solution would be, and this is what I see also on some other homepages, if you scroll down, at some point you'll suddenly get some jump to top button appear here down at the side or in the middle, on which you click, and this brings you directly up to the top again. But what I want to do is, when I scroll down, once I reach this point here, the navbar will stick to the top. Let me quickly show you what I mean by that. I've already implemented this on my homepage. So with it active, with the sticky bar active, if I scroll, you see now how this navbar snaps to the top, and when I now scroll down, it will stay up here. So if I reach this point and want to go to contact, I just click on it. If I go to tutorials, I scroll down, I'll always have the links scrolling down with me. And this is what we're gonna implement. And also if I go up again, we reach this point, we'll again fit into the space here between header and content. So let me now show you how to implement this, and so you can follow along, and also to make it available for you, what you find on my personal GitHub. This is the MeBrite homepage template, and yeah, this is open source. I've made it available, and we will implement this sticky navbar here as part of the scripts, so you can use it as part of this homepage template. First of all, what is this homepage template? So I've already mentioned it in the last video, and yeah, what it is basically what I've built up in the previous videos, so the complete series on Gulp and Nunchucks, where I transformed my homepage into a template-based system where I can make easy changes. I've taken everything I've done there and made a template out of it. So what we have here, this homepage template, in the source, when you check it out, you find what you're already familiar with. And if you're not, then just watch the previous videos. So you have this pages folder, and I've just put in some template pages, so an index without much content yet. I have privacy policy, which you would need to fill. I have the imprint, the disclaimer, so all those are just placeholders, so to say. And I have this also for German. And what's also very nice, I think, is I have a blog down here, and this contains a WordPress template. So I have a very minimalistic template, which you can see in use on my homepage, and this template is provided here. So I just provide the basic template pages for WordPress, and the thing I do here, I use Nunchucks to fill those pages. So typically if you look at some WordPress themes, those can be quite chaotic. There's a lot of includes from other PHP pages and whatnot, but I try to keep this very simple, very minimalistic, and I've based this WordPress template on the same templates which I use for the imprint, for the index. So yeah, if you use this template, you will get a homepage which looks the same no matter if you use a PHP site, a HTML site, or if you use WordPress. So what do you find here? There's the scripts folder where we have the base script with jQuery, and if you just clone this folder or this repository, you not have jQuery included here. You just have the README telling you where to download it because of the licensing. Although it's a free license, I didn't want to include it. Just download it, put it here. And yeah, the same is true here for the jQuery validate min. I just provide the README, tell you where to download it. So this is what you need to do to be ready. And yeah, then what you have here is, just as an example, the variant base, which contains some images, some styles, some templates, and a config, and then a variant mono. And this is what I've implemented. You can build different variants, which is quite nice if you just want to start developing a homepage, maybe even for a customer. You want to have different versions which you want to show. And in this config file, you can tell, okay, so the images, I want them to come first from variant base. So whatever images are here will be taken. And then I will take whatever images are in variant mono and override what's in variant base. So for example, here, the header, which is also up here, I just override it. So the order is first take those images and then override with those images. All the styles, they come from variant mono here. So all the styles are taken from here. The templates are taken from variant base, and then the fav icon is also from variant base. So this is quite a nice system, and I think I will go a bit more into the details later on. But I also want to mention, here's the page data, which you fill with everything you need. So social media links and yeah, page footer, here's the imprint and all the stuff. So it's all set up. You can start very quickly, and what you need to do is just run gulp, and yeah, this will then build this template for you. And up here in the dist, you get the compiled pages. So the index with the content, everything set up, the scripts all included, all ready to use. And when you want to add new pages for yourself, just add those here. Follow what you've seen here, so those examples, or just watch the videos which I've already put on this channel, where I show you exactly how this whole system works. And yeah, then you can easily work on home pages. But now back to the navbar. So here's when you build my template. This is the default look of the page. So very simplistic, and obviously you won't need to change the CSS to make it your own look. What I've done here on the main content page, I've put in some lorem ipsum stuff just to have some content to fulfill the need for a sticky navbar. The way I want to implement this navbar or the stickiness is I want to use jQuery, because it's already included in the homepage, to at this point here, so when I've scrolled to this point, add a class to this navbar which makes it sticky. And the easiest way to find out how the CSS properties for this class have to look is to just press F12 to bring up here the developer tools, then just select the navbar here, so navigation, and I'll just now, for simplicity to test this, add some styles directly here to the navigation. So I go in here, and what I want to do is add position and make it fixed. And this is the first thing. So now what you realize, suddenly the navbar is hovering here in this area. And the reason for that is thinks it has the position which it had before with the header above it. So what I need to do is I provide the position explicitly, so top 0, and also there's still a gap here. What I need to do, basically, I would need to remove the margin at the top. So this basically has put the navbar to the top. So what I need to do, okay, for this special class, we're gonna define remove the margin for the top, make the position fixed, and yeah, also set this top. And what we're also gonna do, we add a Z or Z index and make it 100. Because on some of the other pages, if you use my gallery, the gallery uses a Z index around 10. And yeah, with 100, I make sure that the navbar is in front of everything. Now what you also see here is that the width of the navbar is not filling the complete width of the container here. So what I'm gonna do is now make the width 100%. So this is one thing. And now you see it has the correct width here. And yeah, this is basically the first style I need to add. But let's see what happens if I make this size smaller. So test the responsiveness of that style now. And you see here, if I'm now in a mobile use case, which is smaller than this maximum width 100% does no longer work here correctly. For this I would need another sticky navbar style. So let's remove the width and do it differently here. For the mobile use case, I would do left 0.5 rem, then right 0.5 rem. And what I'd also do is just remove the margins, and then here for the mobile use case it will also look good. Yeah, and the distinction between the two use cases will be done via media queries. Let's now move over and define those two styles. So in the variant base I go to the styles and to the navigation CSS, which contains all the styles for the navigation. And what I do, I'll add a style for the sticky navigation. This navigation sticky will be position fixed, the z-index will be 100, top 0, left 0.5 rem, right 0.5, and the margin set to 0. So this is basically the mobile first use case. So in those CSS files I define the look or the styles for the mobile use case. Now what I also have to do, I go to the media queries, which I have in this media CSS, and here I need to define when to switch over to the normal use case. And to find this switch, I've already did some tests, so I know exactly that it should happen when I've reached a width of 880 pixels. So let's just define this style here, which I already copied over. So I've already done this for my homepage, so I know what has to go in. So once the width of the page occupies more than 880 pixels, this navigation sticky style will be used, and it has a width of 100%. Left and right will now be auto, and the margin left and the margin right will again be 0.5 rem. So this is what we just tested. So now with those styles defined, so the navigation sticky style, I can start writing the JavaScript code which will apply this style once we scroll down on the page. So here under scripts base, I'll create another folder which will contain our sticky navbar. So call this folder sticky navbar, and within it I place the script for the sticky navbar. Okay, so now for such a script, what I want to have, or what I need to have, is some state. And normally when I write a bigger script like my gallery, what I would use is I would use ES6 classes to write proper object-oriented code. But yeah, I don't want to be able to transpile the code here, so I just want to write some simple vanilla JavaScript here. But I don't want to pollute the global namespace. So when I have some state, for example, what I need to check in the beginning, the position of the navbar, once the page starts or the script is included, I want to get this position and I want to store it somehow. And normally when I now define a variable here, var position, let's just put 0 here, this would be a global variable. So I would pollute the namespace of the window object. And this is not a good idea. So what you always should do if you write your scripts, be aware of that and try to keep the amount of global variables low. And we're going to do this by just defining a function. So we call this sticky navbar. And everything we do and all the state and variables we need, we just use inside this function. So we just use the scope of that function, we set up the state, we set up some handlers, and outside of this function, the only thing that will be available in the global namespace will be this function itself, and what's in it will not pollute the global namespace. So wherever we want to make our navbar sticky later, we just call this sticky navbar function, activating the stickiness, and that will be it. And also, sometimes you might even want to give those an even more unique name. For example, for my homepage, I have the bright minus before it, just to make it clear what this belongs to and that there are no collisions when somebody wants to use this. But here it's okay, the sticky navbar will be only included here with the template, which is authored by me, so I have the complete overview. So I think it's okay to have this one global function. Now let's start implementing this function. So I mentioned some state, and this state will be first, so navigation top position. In the beginning I have to find out where the navigation is placed, because this will be kind of the threshold for our sticky navbar. And then also I have to know if the navigation is sticky. Let's now first find out the top position. And for this I want to use some jQuery because as I mentioned, it's included in the page, so we're going to use it. And with this, I want to make sure that the complete DOM, the complete page, is loaded before I try to query that position, because that's important. All the HTML elements have to already be placed on the homepage when I try to find out their position. And I can do this with this $sign and then providing the specifier for documents. So this is jQuery, this $sign, that's the function which you pass a specifier or a string containing some CSS class or ID. And in this case, it's just document. I want to know when the document is ready, and then I have this callback function which will be called. And in this function, I will initialize the navigation top position. And I will use a little bit more jQuery for that. Again, using this $sign, and this time as specifier, I ask for the div that has the navigation class, which is our navigation. I get the position, and then I want to get the top position. And by this, I initialize that variable. Now, in addition to this ready handler, we will add another handler which will deal with making the navigation sticky. And this time we'll attach this handler to the window object, and it will be called every time we scroll. So this window.scroll adds an event handler for the scroll event, and we provide again a callback function which is called every time we scroll the page. And within that function we place the logic, which will start by checking if the navigation is sticky, and it will also have an else. So let's first start with this part. So if the navigation is sticky, what we want to check is, so this means we have already scrolled down, and what we want to check now is when we scroll up again far enough, we will make the navigation unsticky again. So what we check here is if, and now we have to get the top position or the scroll position of the window, which we can do again by accessing the window object and check the scroll top position. And then we check if it's already smaller equals our navigation top position. And if that's the case, we make the navigation unsticky again. So navigation sticky false. And also we will have to remove the class which we add. But first let's do the else part where we add this class, so it will be more clear what we have to do here. So we'll leave this for now. First let's do the else. And in the else, what we check is if the scroll top position is bigger than the navigation top position. And once this is the case, the navigation becomes sticky. So now does it become sticky? I mentioned it already, so we defined the classes which we want to attach to our navigation. So again, we get this navigation, and here we add a class. And this is all jQuery. Now what we place here is the name of the class, which was navigation sticky. And that's it. This makes the navigation sticky. And up here I mentioned we also have to remove it. So remove class navigation sticky. Now I think it's time to give this code a test, and to test it, what we have to do, we have to include this code. And for this, I've already created a partial down here in the templates. So if we go to the parts, you see down here there's the sticky navbar and JK, which just calls our function sticky navbar. Also what we have to do is we have to include the code, so the script has to be added to our base. So let's go down to our gulp file. Down here where we built our base JavaScript, we already include jQuery, the cookie consent bar, and now what we also include is the sticky navbar. Sticky navbar. And this is not yet a minified script. So if you see here, for the cookie consent bar, I already have minified script. For jQuery also, the sticky navbar is not yet minified. And if you followed my previous tutorials, you've seen how I set up the system to just concatenate, but here I've already added some code. So we have a pipe here within this gulp task, which minifies the JavaScript, but this is a custom plugin again. So I have another tutorial on how to write those. It uses through-to object and calls up here the minify.js. And here I have a condition. So only if the file path doesn't end with min.js already, will the contents be minified. Otherwise, I just pass through the file. So what this allows me to do is to concatenate minified and unminified code. So the minified code will just be concatenated, and this file, the sticky navbar, will first be minified and then concatenated. Okay, so with this code in place, we also have to include the partial. So let's go to our layouts, or not to the layouts. We go to the footer partial, which is where we include the base script. And down here, beneath the cookie consent bar, I now also include the script for the sticky navbar. And now I have to do the same in the German version. And now I can build or gulp. And there's an error, so it seems I have some path wrong, I think. Unknown path. So here I have to go up because I have put it in the folder, in the root folder of the path. So now let's run gulp again. Yeah, and if this stuff here is new for you, I've said it a few times already, so the previous videos deal in very much detail with all this nunchuck stuff. Now let's check the page. Now if we scroll down, if we reach this point here, the navbar snaps to the top, so this looks good. Let's also check how it looks in the mobile use case, make it smaller. So the edges look correct. Let's scroll up and now down again, and you see somehow the snapping is a little bit delayed. The reason for that is that the top position changes. So if I make it wider, you see how the navbar moves down a bit because the header gets bigger. If I make it smaller, it moves up. So the top position which we got while we were in this state no longer applies when we make it smaller. So we have to update it. So let's add another event handler. And yeah, this time we will listen to the resize event. Window resize, and also define a callback function in which we'll update the top position. But we won't do it every time, which would give us a wrong position. For example, if we are already scrolled down and now as a resize event, if we would now get the top position, it would be 0. So this is not what we want. We want only to update the top position if we are back in the unsticky state. So if not navigation sticky, then we update the top position. And also to make this complete, let's also update the top position when we transition from navigation sticky to navigation unsticky. So also here, the navigation, when the class was removed, let's also update it. Now let's build this again and see if it now works. Let's refresh the page, and now I scroll down. Now I make the window smaller. Now I scroll up, and now when I scroll down, you see the snapping is correct. If I make it wider, scroll up, scroll down, yeah, now it's complete. Okay, and with this change, we've also reached the end of the tutorial. We've learned some very basic jQuery here, how you can add and remove classes to certain divs, and by this change the behavior, how we can add event handlers, and yeah, here a little word of warning. To keep the browser responsive, you should limit the amount of work you do in those event handlers. So if you do too heavy processing here, which takes too long, the responsiveness of the browser could be degraded. So you could even completely block the rendering. And yeah, maybe you've seen this on some pages. Sometimes you get a message, some script is slowing down the browser. And yeah, that's often something where some script goes crazy, does too heavy processing too often. And to avoid this, for example, such event handlers keep the word low. Use some states to limit what you do and just do important stuff here. You could also, if you want to limit the number of times something is done here, use an interval or timer to just process at a certain interval and use those handlers just to update some state, which will then be used in the timer or interval to update something. Okay, and yeah, that being said, I hope you liked this tutorial. If so, leave a thumbs up, also subscribe for more, and if you have questions, just ask. I try to answer everything, and see you in the next video. Bye.